Screenshot.
Yeah, boy.
What's going on, guys? Today is an amazing day. We have finally gotten a look at what the new content in Definitive Edition will look like. Outward is getting a bunch of awesome changes, and I'm going to go over everything released so far. 9 Dot Studios recently put out the Dev Diary, and it gave us a glimpse of quite a few new aspects added into the game. The first thing they showed off is the update to Outward's graphics, and how things look more smooth and less blurry. This is pretty awesome because it means some of your favorite armors and items will look even cooler now. The specific looks of the game has not changed a whole lot. It will still be the same game you know and love, but with a higher quality feel. Next, we get to see the changes to the crafting in Outward. The crafting tab of your inventory will now be separated into 3 separate sections: cooking, survival, and alchemy. A faded image in the background of each section will let you know which of the 3 you are in if you don't want to read the labels. You will still be unable to craft certain items without a cooking pot or alchemy kit. However, you will be able to see what ingredients are needed for any particular item you're looking for. If you're unaware, the current state of crafting in Outward does not let you see recipes for food or potions unless you are at the required crafting station. This has been quite irritating, because most of the time, you won't remember the ingredients for better consumables until after you've already sold all your stuff. This also makes it difficult to manage your backpack space when you never really know what ingredients you might need later on. Well, no more. Outward players can now easily check the recipes for ingredients they might need and spend less time staring into an alchemy kit. Another new change shown in the video is the separation of co-op players' stash chests. We get to see 2 players open the same chest, and yet, neither person can see the same items. This is because each player gets access to his or her own stash chest, rather than sharing the person's who is hosting. This will let co-op players better manage their own items, and keep things separate if they want to. Corruption is now in different parts of the game. We get a glimpse of a location that is filled with green fumes, known as Corruption. This location looks to be the area near the Cabal Hermit, on the other side of the Ghost Pass in Chersonese. Currently, Corruption is only in the Antique Plateau, because it was added into the game with the addition of the Soraborians DLC. This makes very little sense, because Corruption, along with the Scourge, has run rampant all over the world of Arai, and should be in locations other than near Harmattan. Locations in which large amounts of Scourge can be found may now have Corruption there, requiring you to bring along potions or suffer the consequences. Time to pull out that old Buzu Hide backpack. Some content from the Three Brothers DLC is also being transferred over to the other regions in Outward. In the video, we get to see a workshop-like structure, a bench that reads, "There's a strange workbench here. If you know how to use it, perhaps you could craft something special here." From the carvings on the banisters of the structure, we can assume this has something to do with the Primal Ritualist, and may be a new way to craft totems. There are only 2 totems in the game, and not everyone is going to use them. So maybe there is more to it than just that. Really cool idea though, and it will be interesting to see what all we can do at these workstations. A small but equally amazing change we're getting is ley line water at the ley line in the Conflux Mountain. This water was previously only in the Antique Plateau, and it makes sense that it should be near the other source of intense magic. Even more mana regen for our godly mage builds. We also get to see some footage from Vengeful Fortress, and get to hear that certain areas in the game were given more decorations and environmental changes. For example, the train stations have a freaking map now. How many of you have gotten lost in there? This will be worth playing the entire game over again just to see any of the small items that have been added to each cave or dungeon. As far as new content goes, we don't really get to see too much, but what we do get to see is pretty exciting. Most dungeons, or larger caves in Outward, will now have unique encounters. These seem to be enemies that resemble other enemies in the area, but have been slightly altered or upgraded. The video shows a lightning golem in the cave where you can find the Lightmender's old lexicon and equipment. We see footage of a large yellow golem that walks on 4 legs and largely resembles a rock mantis, if that mantis were made of lightning and had double the health. It seems like each of the larger dungeons in Outward will be getting a sort of mini-boss that guards it. This enemy may share multiple features with different enemies in the game, and be much more difficult to get rid of. This will bring a much more challenging feel to Outward, and force you to take more risks for the better gear you are looking for. It also seems like elementals can be found in these different caves, making enchanting much more accessible than it currently is. Great change there. In this particular section of the video, we also get to see some changes to the health bar of enemies. When the player hits the golem, you can see a flash of yellow or gold encase the enemy's health bar. This indicates something about your enemy's weaknesses. My guess is that the flash means your opponent is weak to that element. We can infer this from the footage of a massive Scourge beast being hit by a decay element. There is a red flash instead to that enemy's health bar, and Scourge beasts are known to be very resistant to decay damage. So if you are seeing a lot of yellow flashing from your enemy's health, then you know you are doing the correct type of damage. If you are seeing a lot of red flashing, then switch elements, because your enemy won't take much damage from that. This is a great change to the game, and will let you understand more about the enemies you face, and prepare better in the future if you ever come across them again. Dying just got a whole lot worse in Outward, and trust me, it will be brutal. Each time you are killed in Outward, you get a different defeat scenario. Sometimes a hero named Gep will save you, and other times the friendly Immaculate will nurse you back to health. Most of the time, you can continue to die over and over without very many consequences, other than having low health. Well, don't expect that to be the same in Definitive Edition. From the video, we get to see a player die and show up in a sort of prison with their gear confiscated. This may imply that you must complete different trials or mini-quests in order to get your gear back. No longer will you only be saved by a friendly face. Sometimes bandits will get a hold of you and maybe force you to do their dirty work. Overall point to take away, you really don't want to die anymore. There are also going to be some additional illnesses added into this game, and Hive Infestation is one of them. Outward is a very distinctive RPG because it has different illnesses such as a cold or simple infection that you can catch. Now, it seems like even more enemies can give you an ailment that you must cure. This may also mean new potions to craft, or maybe just changes to potions currently in the game. All I know is that it seems like Outward will try to kill you more often now, or at least place a lot of misery onto your existence. Really cool change that will punish you more for silly mistakes, and force you to either avoid certain enemies or attack them with a different approach. Overall, it seems like Definitive Edition will be a huge overhaul of Outward. Caves you thought you knew before will now be much more dangerous, making it much harder to grab items you used to get at the start of the game. There will be a lot of different changes to experience, like running into crafting stations or dying and waking up in a cage. If you have already beat Outward and think there is nothing here for you, think again. Definitive Edition is going to make Outward much more difficult, while also making certain aspects like enchanting much easier. It truly is going to change the game, and you should 100% be anticipating this update. Unfortunately, nothing in terms of pricing or time of release was mentioned in the dev diary, but hopefully we will hear something soon. Definitive Edition is going to be a pretty epic adventure, and hopefully you are getting ready to face tons of new challenges and defeat tons of brutal enemies. Comment down below what change you're most excited for, and I will see you in the next video.